Card Games and Chill! We're back from hell! And here with the ban list review! So here with me are other members of the channel. I'm Vicky.
I'm Alex.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Cece.
That's all we got for today, but I assure you there's more of us, but I swear this is the most we've gotten out of videos so far, so hopefully you like it. But as I said today, here we're discussing the ban list announcement that came out yesterday. Oh no, we're a day late. But I figure it's still worth talking about, even though this video's probably been done by a bunch of other content creators. So, here we go! So, the list effective... well, it's effective by the end of the week. I've already changed up my decks, but here we go. So, Ukomon. It was intended for this card to be combined with the promo Louis and used in a variety of decks, but the importance of this one card turned out to be much bigger than predicted, as it increases the speed of control decks that don't require a level 3 and provides many options by securing memory. As a result, there's a difference in power between decks that can use this card and those that can't, resulting in a loss of diversity in the decks that can be used. For the above reasons, Bandai has decided to restrict this card to one per deck. So, I'd say this is one of the least surprising of the cards that were restricted. We knew Ukomon was probably going to get restricted in some capacity, but I wasn't sure if it was going to be both or just the promo. Ooh. Of course, I'm sure you guys all have opinions on this, especially you, Jack, but my piece, I guess I'll say, is it's not too surprising. I haven't had to change up decks much since I wasn't using much of this card, but again, the fact that this card was so ubiquitous and was just speeding up decks was ridiculous. Like, it's just like, hey, instead of using in-archetype cards, let's just use promo Ukomon to chunk everything out, especially in decks that were, in addition to the control decks they mentioned, like aggro decks like Red Hybrid. It's just like, okay, get all your little pieces out and then Digivolve up. It definitely was bad for the speed of the game, I'd say.
Yeah, this was a bit of a contentious subject with us in terms of what we thought was going to happen. Although I know I held firm that if they were going to hit an Ukomon, it was gonna be this one, just because you get the memory gain, and the big thing is you get to evolve for free. The other Ukomon
It's a
does
little more
cost.
fair, yeah, because it costs one.
So like if that's your opening turn, evolving into Ukomon and passing turn doesn't always feel great. Like, at least with this one, you got to play a training or a memory boost or a tamer or another body on the field at least,
Yeah.
and then you would be able to bring it up the next turn, hatch another egg, gain a memory, and either try to keep it around, or if you are using a deck that had like the red Koromon from BT14, you just swing and draw a card, and then you get to hatch. You get to bring something up your next turn, and I don't know. I think that's better. I just think that's
I think, like, in addition to BT14 Koromon, like, the EX4 Sunomon and the BT15 Demi-Marimon were definitely also being abused. Like, it's kind of meant to be like, okay, you can't Digivolve off of Ukomon, so you can't do much, but with those eggs, it's just like, and I just get a bunch of draw because Ukomon's just a body and can Digivolve off anything for free, so it definitely wasn't good, obviously. I feel like the big reason Ukomon was hit, because they said control decks, so I'm guessing, like, probably Slug's Numemon. But yeah, it was definitely the loss of diversity, as they said.
yeah,
Cards provide a lot of value. Let's not mince words. Both Ukomons provide way too much value for what they do. I feel sad for people who want to play big Ukomon and clown around with it, because now there isn't enough Ukomon. It makes running big Ukomon as a strat harder.
I mean,
But
I'm
as
trying
I
it,
said,
sweetheart.
both cards provide way too much value for the
But
reasons Alex mentioned, but also let's not forget that promo that the BT16 Uko also searches, and it can grab a Digimon and a Tamer. So both cards are a problem in my opinion.
This one was just more of a problem.
This one needed to go right away though.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'll say about the BT16 one is, it, like, card advantage, yeah, that's good. It has the inherent problem of any searcher where
If you whiff, you could like put down an option that you really need, or you only get to pick one
bring
card.
out, or you could have to pick between two pieces you really vitally need, and you don't, and if you bottomed one of the other things you need that you don't have, you don't know when you're gonna see it again.
Yeah, it's a little more fair, as you guys are saying.
Yeah.
How about
and-
you, child?
and
You've been
searcher.
quiet.
Because usually Ukomon's not gonna live long enough for you to get that effect off a second time.
Yeah, true.
And for anybody that says, but this effect exists elsewhere in the game, yes, those are in Vmon and Agumon, and there is a downside. You have to play the archetype, which means if there's a hole in the archetype, you have to live with it.
Yeah, this was kind of making it like, as much as I like a wide variety of decks being in the meta, it kind of just ended up speeding up what was already there instead of like allowing the diversity that a generic card should have.
Yeah. CC, did you have anything to add? Because you had a lot of feelings on Ukomon.
Yeah, you haven't said much, child.
Yeah, so I mean, I knew one of them was at least going to get hit. I did think that there was a possibility for it to be like a choice kind of restriction, saying where you couldn't run both of them at 4, or you couldn't run like some number of them together. Like, I thought one of the big things they were going to do is just saying if you run both types of Rukomon, you can only run 2 of each, giving you a full set of 4 of them, but kind of balancing it out a bit more, just so, like, it wasn't just they're going to use 8 Ukomon and just kind of send it, right?
Yeah, a lot of decks seem to be
think,
using that as a bottomment.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the main things is a lot of decks that ended up using Ukomon struggled to have like that solid bottom end that you'll see some of like other more refined decks having, and I think that's why decks like um, Red Hybrid for one got to use this card and just not really take over with it, but it got a lot faster and actually playable with it. Like Red Hybrid was good before Ukomon, but this
And it
card
will
allowed it to
continue
be
good afterwards, as I say.
yeah, right. But
I just like Flamemon. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I never really bought into the Uko hype, but I am probably rare, and I definitely probably played the deck suboptimally. But now you don't really have that option with it hits a 1, so.
Yeah,
I
and I think one of the
Okay.
big things about this restriction is like it definitely like even Rookie Rush started to like show up a little bit just because how good these Ukomons were. But I think this
Yeah.
will definitely be able to like mostly slow down decks that aren't supposed to be like as fast as they were with Ukomon.
Let's slow the roll on the rookie rush because that'll bring us into the next card. And I just want to say, as the resident, like, well, I'm not the only resident red hybrid player. I'm just the resident.
Yeah, I play it too.
I was the resident both red hybrids.
Yeah, you also play Old Man Greymon.
This isn't even the one I'm running in Ancient Greymon in the first place.
Yeah, because you do want to dig for tamers, and while Flamemon does that, Ukomon does it okay. I think with the new it'll be in 2.0, the new Bokomon
Yeah,
will definitely help
you...
fill the gap for this. And
Yeah.
like the deck will run as permitted, but it just with this Ukomon again, like between like Rookie Rush and that, it definitely did it. But you guys ready to move on to the next card? Because we're kind of already getting into it. They numbered this pretty
Speaking of
well.
Rookie Rush, that brings us into the next card on this list.
Yep, so I was a little bit surprised by this one, but I guess it makes sense if you're not hitting both Ukomon. To be honest, like, I think CC's idea was good, but there's also something to be said about, like, keeping the ban list simple to keep the game accessible.
I think what CC's specific idea of choice restriction is a little too complex, but I also,
Yes.
I was originally someone who was of a choice restriction, but mainly of, like, you can only play one or the other, you just can't use both at all.
Yeah.
But I also just don't think, in hindsight, that choice restriction was the right move, because I think because so far Bandai's only shown choice restriction to be a thing that they want to use.
To
If they,
prevent infinite loops.
yeah, if they basically find just such an insane combo that like no like not known in a million years, because obviously people found the combo, but like you have to do some serious like thinking and figuring out to find a very specific combination of cards that just makes it so that the game is unplayable, which is the case with the one restriction we have, where it just doesn't let your opponent ever get to play the game. And I think choice.
You clipped out a little bit on my end, but yeah, I agree with that. I think the only other thing that would probably end up on the choice restriction list anytime soon, even though it's not a huge deal, is the very small niche infinite loop with what was it, Mega Seedramon, the purple level 5 for Leviamon, and Dimension Scissor, that you could just like make them play their guy, delete their guy, cycle, cycle, cycle.
Yeah, I think that's far more circumstantial and tough to actually pull off than the one
Yeah.
that happened at the beginning of this year.
Yeah, well, speaking of things that like cause a little bit of loops, let's get back to the card. So, promo Louis got hit. It wasn't talked about much, but I think this is a safe hit. As we were discussing, like this, anything that interacts with the breeding area can be a little bit too strong. So I'll read what they said here. By repeatedly combining effects that aren't once per turn, such as BT6's Matashita, so also, of course, the tie. So with this card's on-play effect, the game speed accelerates dramatically, making it difficult for many decks to compete. Because various decks use countermeasures against this combination, like Digimon Emperor, they're not saying, decks that are strongly affected by countermeasures are no longer able to perform as effectively as they should, like Rookie Rush or something, resulting in a loss of diversity for the decks being used. For the above reasons, Bandai decided to restrict this card to one per deck.
Can this please just mean that people stop putting fucking Digimon Emperor in their decks? Please? Please. Because, like,
Maybe?
Rookie Rush is so... Yeah, I get it. Rookie Rush is really annoying, but, like, if you put Digimon Emperor in your deck just because 2 years later you've now realized that it was always a good card, you're no better than a Setcom player, and...
Well, here's the thing. Level 3s weren't usually good for bringing out of Raising before. I think, like, starting with, like, the Secret Rare rookies in BT14, there was actually a reason to bring a rookie out of Raising aside from wanting the on-Digivolve effect. And Ukomon definitely made that worse, to the point where Digimon Emperor became so widespread that its alt-art reprint in the packs became, like, what, $20?
It's,
So-
like, $40 now.
Ew!
30 or $40, which is a shame, because I really want to buy it.
So I'm cool with this. Because for one, I feel that the hatch effect is a lot more fairly printed on other cards that already exist in the game.
Like
Most noteworthy Mimi, because you have to be at least
Jedi.
level 5 to be able to do the effect.
And I think it has to be green, too.
Okay.
It might. I don't remember.
The secret rare Greymon that was just printed is another example. You have to be deleted in order to get the hatch effect, and it's an or effect. So you can either play a tamer or hatch.
Yeah.
Looking at Mimi, because I had the deck right here, it's if you have 2 or less memory set, it's a 3. And if you have a level 5 or higher green Digimon, by suspending this tamer, move out 1 card. So yeah, it was a little... Like, Louis costs 1 less and is way less a lot.
Also, Kid Tai and Kari. It's a once per turn effect. Basically, you have to suspend Tai and Kari to get the memory.
Yeah, the only other one I could think of is Shine Greymon Ruin Mode, and that's on a level 7, and it has to die, so you have to either kill it on the first turn and lose a turn of stall, or, and you have to have a tamer, so...
Yeah,
Louis was just...
with the secret rare Angemon, where it has to be, it's only on deletion and you need a tamer to be
Yeah, like, those cards are more strict. This Louis is just, like, play Louis, bring out of Raising. A lot of, like, it won't solve the decks that I see run 1 of Louis, so just you could play it and win the game, like a hybrid, that you don't have to Digivolve on top of a tamer. But Yeah, there were a lot of texts where it's just like, okay, I play Louis to get a card out at a specific time, and it definitely messed with the flow. I think like effects like promo Louis that was restricted here, like working with the breeding area. The breeding area was designed as it was, as an intention, so you could raise things up safely. And exploiting it like this is definitely bending the mechanics of the game in a way that wasn't healthy for the game.
Yeah, and
And
as we saw in Japan, this just made surprisingly not Agumon like ridiculous, but it definitely made Ancient Gabumon ridiculous.
Yeah, I definitely think that's why the next card probably got hit, and they specifically mentioned BT6 Matt and not BT6 Tai here.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that this 1-2 of promo Louis, promo Uko getting hit will reduce the number of people that are just saying, let's play Uko and Louis in everything. Because as the Bond player, I play Bond of Bravery, by the way. It's like my favorite deck. But anyway, the point is, I am so sick and tired of every time I see a new Bond tech come out, one of the first cards that gets mentioned is Louis. Or Ukomon, and that's not why I play the deck. I play the deck because I want to punch for hilariously big numbers off of a champion, or be able to warp, and you're just not seeing that. There's just, and even in janky decks like Myotismon, again, you're seeing we're gonna play 4 of Uko promo and 4 of BT16 Uko because of all of this stuff that it does. And it's just like, where's the creativity?
Yeah,
Where's
it's
the
the lack
jet?
of diversity in the bottom end. Like because of Louis and promo Ukomon speeding up decks, we got to see like more decks in casual. But because it accelerated like popular decks more, it's just okay. Place these cards in the bottom end. The fast decks get it's kind of like the rich get richer, the poor get poorer in a way.
Yeah.
So like I don't think it's like a huge loss.
No, it's not a bad loss for the game. It's good for the game.
Yeah. And you mentioned the next card. I think we can just go right into it because I think
Unless Cece wants to say something, because I think
Well-
we've been talking over the child.
No, you covered everything that I would have probably mentioned. I think the main like perk to this card is it it gives itself a memory, so the tamer really costs 2 and not 3, and I think that's
That's a
what
good
made it
point, yeah.
really, really good.
yeah.
Because a lot of the times, if you have more than one of them, and if you have more than one Ukomon, you can sometimes swing for 3 hits on turn 1, and I think that's kind of way
Gross.
too much.
Yeah, I agree. That's the deal with the speed. You're right that it just had the potential to pop off really early if you opened with like promo Louis and just a bunch of Ukos, and it was kind of unfair for your opponent. Sometimes like if you just steamroll your opponent doesn't get to play.
Yeah, turn 1 has always supposed to be safe.
Yeah, setup. That's why
Relatively
like first
safe.
player isn't supposed to draw stuff like that. But with this, it definitely became too easy to get draw in memory on first turn.
Like, you can turn 1 swing with Machine Germon if you're going second. But you're also going to give your opponent a shit ton of memory in the process.
Yeah, it's just like that is a mad lad play, and we support those, but it requires risk. Using promo Louis and promo Ukomon to accelerate your early game was just there's absolutely no risk involved unless your opponent immediately slaps down Digimon Emperor. But if you do all this turn 1, it might be like too late.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we're okay with Machine Germon because there's a significant amount of downside to doing that.
yeah, like or like if you hard play your aces, like there's
Like, you are
it's
throwing out your
balanced
entire hand.
with risk reward. Like things that operate off the hatching area because the hatching area is inherently safe. Like this, like yeah, it's just like ew. Absolutely positively gross, and that is definitely why these two cards got hit. Like I said, I was only expecting one of the Ukos, maybe 2, maybe both of them, but I wasn't expecting the Louis, but I think it was the correct play, a good play for
Nice.
Bandai to do this. Yeah, and they're promos, so it decreases the price of these promos. Like with this Ukomon 1, I could just use this cute art that we got from a pre-release. I have to find it though, because it's just very cute. Let's appreciate the art. So this I think is the one that surprised me and a bunch of other players. Hammer Spark was hit, a card all the way from the very beginning of the game. So what it says is this card has been used in decks that include blue cards for a long time, but the increased variety of cards available now allows for more card drawing, making it possible to have multiple cards in hand and use them consecutively in one turn. As a result, it has become easier to speed up the game, widening the gap between decks that can use this card and others. For the above reasons, Bandai decided to restrict Hammer Spark to one per deck. Like I said, this one surprises me, because I hadn't really heard about it, even though like I like to keep a tab on the Japanese results, just because I find new cards neat. But I'm guessing it might be, as we mentioned earlier, like with Ancient Garurumon and the Gabu stuff. Just you draw a bunch, and then you have like all 4 Hammer Sparks in your hand. I think it's similar to way earlier when we got oh, what was the Garurumon card in EX1 that got hit to 1?
Ice Wall.
Ice Wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna compare it to
Similar
Ice
to
Wall.
Ice Wall. It's Ice Wall, but a little bit nice. Like Ice Wall was just very, very defensive, and like your opponent didn't get to play the game if you played multiple in a turn. This is Hammer Spark gets you 1 memory if you play it. So 4 memory, you can digivolve in a Mega for like free. So yeah, I'm thinking it might have been Ancient Garurumon that got this card hit in advance. Like it would just be like, okay, you have 4 of them, you swing with your promo Lobomon, and then you go into it for free, and then you just loop and make your opponent suffer. I heard rumors of a Gabu loop, I think, from Mario's Gaming World that I hadn't heard much of, but I think this must have been a card involved in it. With Hammer Spark, I think it's just Ancient Garurumon, you'd use the Lobomon to warp, and it'd be free, and then you just loop the little guys, and you get advantage early, and your opponent just kind of can't keep up with all those swings.
Yeah, I mean, it's also just like, it's definitely because of Ancient Garurumon, just because of the timing. Like, Ancient Gurumon's been going crazy in Japan, and they announced this right after BT17 came out in the West.
Yeah. My only thing, though, is, like, they recently had the Grand Asia Open, and it wasn't these decks that placed it, was the usual suspects that are still going here in America, like Numemon and Yellow Vaccine and Magnamon.
And Galgamon.
Yeah, Mirage Galgamon.
They probably also thought that hitting this might hit Mirage.
It won't.
Maybe. I haven't really seen a lot of Mirage decks using this.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing about comparing it to Ice Wall is also, much like Ice Wall, it steals a turn if you hit it in security.
Yeah, that's a whole 2 memory, and that's enough that it's been a mechanic in Aces, like Metal Garurumon Ace, one of the very first ones we got in the game.
Yeah, and I think it leads a different conversation about other memory cards being.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Like, I think they should have hit Blinding
probably
Ray.
go. They should probably all go. Maybe with the exception of Jack Raid, because Jack Raid is dependent upon the number of option cards that you have in your graveyard.
No, it's cards in your trash in general, sweetie. But the only card that really uses it is Lilith Loop. Yeah, it has to be at least 10.
I would also argue Gravity Crush.
Yeah, Gravity Crush is what I was thinking of.
Yeah, that's why I just kind of meant all.
The only way to circumvent it is if they have a memory tamer and you can choke them to say 1 afterwards, because then
they can't play the card without
comes into play beforehand. But like Yellow doesn't really care about losing its security. They actually want the security gone because it procs.
Yeah, like especially with stuff like that and X, you just proc it. Like, I was really hoping that got hit, but I think this definitely opens the door for discussion on that with, like, free memory. Memory is a resource in the game for a reason, and getting memory for free, or to benefit, like, from, Blinding Ray is definitely bad, but I guess it makes sense that Hammer Spark was hit first, just because of how much blue draws.
And also because it's a 0 cost. And mentioning it's actually not super surprising Hammer Spark got hit, because it's the same logic for why they hit Promo Ukomon. where you
You know
get
what?
memory
Yeah, fair.
for free. You get memory for free.
Now, that being said, I think the reason why this didn't get banned for the longest time was because to run more than 2 copies of it, you're talking about eating up option spaces in your deck. And that's one thing that this deck does have an Achilles heel. It's the one thing that people don't talk about. It's 1 card for 1 memory. So that means that if you're running more than one of them, that means you're not running a training boost, you're not running any other option card that might be appropriate for the archetype you're playing. I'm looking at this mainly as like an armor player, an Old Force player, and an Imperial player. I don't play this card because in Old Force that would take away a Tamer slot. That's an immediate non-starter for me. If it's taking away a Tamer slot for me, it needs to be absolutely amazing. Because and it can't take a Digimon slot because Digimon spots in that deck are really hard to come by. So in order for it to take either one, it has to be good. Armors, I can go from Magnamon to Magnamon X pretty easily because I play Vmon armors. So I don't the extra memory. Yeah, it's helpful, but I don't care as much.
Yeah, Hammer Sparks only costs
Imperial,
spot and deck.
and an Imperial, again, I don't care. The deck generates a ton of memory on its own. It doesn't need Hammer Spark to go crazy.
But definitely for decks that revolve around memory and looping it, like, you don't want 4 of it. So
Yeah.
I think this, even though it surprised me when it came out, is a better hit than most and pretty savvy on Bandai's part.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this. If they're gonna ban Hammer Spark, they should just go whole hog and ban all of the free memory cards and be done with it.
I
Rip that
kind of
Band-Aid
agree.
off. Rip that Band-Aid off. The game will be better for it. Like, reinforcing memory boost is one that's never been unrestricted because of the amount of stuff that you can do with it.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
just, things that
It'll
tend,
never come back.
yeah,
And-
things that tend to get unrestricted, or things that tend to get restricted, rather, like that, it's usually the card does too much for too little memory. And cards that just give you free memory, like Hammer Spark, are definitely within Bandai's philosophy of things they've hit before.
Which, I don't know if that's the next card on the list, but that is definitely something we got to put a pin in because it will be revisited.
Yes,
What?
it definitely will be revisited. I say at the end we talk about cards we think should have been hit, or
Well,
things
not
that
even
should have been
that. I
unhit.
mean, that's
but...
to address another card in this list.
And yeah, in this list, there's definitely a couple of cards that hit that. You got anything to say, Cece?
I think we.
Did we
Once
lose
again-
the child? Oh, there she is.
No, I'm still here. I think, yeah, this card was just. It had it coming for a long time, but I think the prevalence of blue now between Mirage, Magna, Ancient Guru, Gabubond, rather. Like,
Yeah,
there's
Galaxy
just
decks.
yeah, Galaxy decks. There's just a bunch of decks that can use this card, and I think the fact that they can use it like at such high volumes, even though it takes up a slot in a lot of decks, there are just too many that can use it too easily. And I think that was probably the same logic behind Uko, but this is just the blue instance of it.
Yeah, Blue's had it too good for too long. Okay, let's go to the next card then. Yeah, I think this was the correct hit against the Magnamon deck, along with, I guess, something we're gonna see later, but here it is, BT9's Awakening in the Golden Knight, which I feel like definitely was designed for old Magna X, and was definitely not designed by new Magna X.
It was.
Bandai's explanation is, this card is used in decks that mainly use BT16 Magnamon X Antibody, which has a high usage rate in the recent game environments. No. When combined with cards such as level 3 cards that support Digivolution, I'm thinking they mean Patamon from BT14 and the one Vmon that if you evolve in a free it costs 1 less for the 2 different versions of the deck. It was possible to keep Magnamon on the board early and move forward in attacking, which is, with a card like Magnamon X, like the BT16 one, that's bad for your opponent. just because it's able to turn off effects so easily, and uh, using stuff like Binding Ray and stuff, you could just, it's okay for you to sacrifice your own security because it's that early in the game. But anyway, the above play is very powerful and creates situations that many decks can't handle. To fix this issue, we've decided to restrict this card to one per deck.
I would have been okay with the choice restriction here for you either play one of this or you can play as many of it as you want, and you can only play one of Magnamon X from BT16.
Again, I think keeping it simple is better, but I think this was the right card to hit because I feel like hitting Magna X itself is too much. It kind of kills the deck. But
No, it
this
doesn't.
this made it too fast, I feel like.
Well, there's always going to be a new Magnamon. There's always going to be a new Magnamon X. It's not an if, it's an inevitability. I think it would have been fine to hit Magna X just because the card is way too overtuned.
Armor players won't care because they'll, guess what? They will either play Armor Rush or they'll play more Magnamon X for BT11. I'm sorry, BT9.
Yeah, but I think what this succeeds to do and makes the deck a little more fair is it slows the card down and it makes it harder to run things other than Magnamon like Rapidmon.
Yeah, it also means that they might actually have to start including level 5s.
Yeah, they might have to put a level 5 in there.
Yeah.
Which means a lot. Like, a lot of the good choices, I'd say, like, depend on you having a wide board, like, both versions of Shakuamon.
I think Magnamon X is perfectly fair in Beamon armors. It's the yellow.
Oh, no, I think the
unfair.
blue version is just as strong, if not stronger, but we'll definitely see with this card hit. But I think the blue version's definitely going to be stronger considering another hit that's on this list.
And considering the next set, which we really just...
I don't know if it's the next one, but... It's not the next one, I looked.
I don't even remember what else got hit.
What do you mean you don't know what else got hit? The next one is incredibly obvious. It's the card that everybody said should get hit. But let's finish talking about Awakening of the Golden Knight first.
Well, I must be forgetting something, because I feel like...
You definitely are forgetting the big one.
I just want Yellow Vaccine to go away. I
think Yellow Vaccine is fine, because it makes Yellow a color again.
As an armor player, I just...
Vaccine to go.
As an armor player, I just want Yellow Vaccine to go away because
you wanted to stop stealing your toys.
I just wanted to stop stealing my toys so I can play Armor Rush and be a little paste eater and be happy.
Yeah, I want Magna Vaccine gone because I don't like what it does to Yellow.
Yeah, it kind of just like uses both of the cards kind of in a way that kind of weren't intended, and I think Awakening of the Golden Knight just let you put like Yellow Vaccine good stuff and then put like Rapidmons and stuff and not worry about like being a Magnamon archetype and just slapping Magna X on top of it and making it a day. The deck was very fast for a boss monster that's very control-y.
Yeah, and that's not good.
No. Anybody else have anything to say about Awakening of the Golden Knight before we move on to the next card? Also, again, with things doing things for too cheap, Awakening of the Golden Knight costs 3, and that's definitely a lot cheaper than other cards. I definitely lost in, I think it was the first Evo Cup, to a Yellow Vaccine player that had Patamon and got into an armor, did this, and then got Magna X out on like turn 2 or 3. And I just couldn't do anything.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, that's bad. It just makes the deck too fast. Again, it does too much for too little, and it's a bit understated, but you can have your DP reduced just adds on to, like, it covers just a small weakness in this deck. Like, I know some counterplay for Awakening of the Golden Knight was to play cards like Ruin Mode or Valkyremon X, so you could have the DP, because it's Magnamon X, of course, says it isn't affected by effects, but it could still be targeted, so things that go into the other turn before Magnamon X can reactivate its effect, like with weird timings. Like, that was one way they tried to hit the card, like, competitively as a workaround, but it didn't quite work, and this card made it even harder.
As an armor player, I agree, because that's the two ways you deal with armors. Those are the two things that you don't want to see in security or being played against you are DP minus and D-Digivolve effects.
Yeah.
Specifically, D-Digivolve delete effects.
Yeah, de-digivolve and delete the body underneath definitely gets around armor purge.
And the fact that you can't de-Digivolve Magnamon X is kind of a problem, but, you know, I won't disagree with that.
Yeah. So hopefully this will slow down the deck a little bit, and we'll at least see less of the yellow version.
I don't have a problem with armors having some protection from DP minus effects, because again, that is a major downside to playing armors. That's how you get rid of them.
Yeah, but this is a little bit too much for one card, so I think hitting it to 1 so you can less reliably find it is a fair hit to both versions of the deck.
All right, so what am I forgetting, Vicky? Because I feel like I'm not forgetting.
Seriously, you're forgetting Numemon X!
Wait a minute. Before Numemon X, we're forgetting that the child might have an opinion.
I think
Yes, child, what is your opinion on Awakening of the Golden Knight?
The child does not have an opinion on the Awakening of the Golden Knight. I don't care for the card. I think when played with the old Magnamon, it's fine. I think they should have just hit the new Magnamon, but I don't think they plan on making another Magnamon X because I think they're afraid of screwing up again, so that's why they didn't hit it.
I think it's also just, whatchamacallit was just hit Apocalypse-mon, and it kind of makes... It would make BT16 even less valuable, and they probably still want to sell some products, especially with it short printed, with catching up to the English release.
BT16 was pretty way too valuable for the amount of mid in that set.
Yeah, it kind of became BT16, like, selling now, unfortunately, seems to be, like, the things keeping the set afloat are Magnamon X and, Pyldramon.
Valkyremon.
Oh yeah, and Valkyremon Ace.
It's actually under $10 now.
Valkyremon Ace is so good.
Valkyremon Ace is really good. But yeah, let's get to the Slug in the Room Numemon X. When using Numemon decks, this card has high border tension from the beginning of the game, and its inherited effect can be reused when combined with other cards, allowing this single card to significantly increase the ability to control the entire deck. In addition, since a level 6 can also be played by its effect, Platinum Numemon, it's easy to digivolve from there to a level 7, which has a higher output to create a one-sided control board at an early stage. For the reasons stated above, we expect this card will play a very large role in the deck. It does. Resulting in loss of diversity for the cards included. For the above reasons, we decided to restrict it to 1 per deck.
Honestly, that's pretty self-explanatory. Like, the only thing really is, like, you could argue that Monzamon X is the card that should have been restricted instead of,
I don't know. I think this is the correct card just because of that on deletion.
I think this actually kills the deck, and I think that's what the format needed right now.
I don't think it's completely dead, but this...
It doesn't.
They hit
The only way it would
and this.
if they hit Monze and this and Uko, the deck would be dead.
Monze is removal. This is completely different.
This didn't
Monze
kill
is a removal piece.
A lot of Numa players are saying this doesn't kill the deck. Like, even
I've seen a lot saying that this does kill the deck.
I think that remains something to be seen at the end of the month when this goes into effect, but I think this was the right hit just simply because it made the pieces too recyclable. Especially, as it mentioned, like, you play Platinum Numemon, you go into the level 7, what are they gonna do about it? Especially if you go, like, you go immediately from Platinum Numemon. Like, this was the big complaint that I've seen, that some people said it made the game unplayable. You go from Platinum Numemon into Valkyrie X, or Valkyrie Ace, and then into Shine Greymon Ruin mode, and you buy yourself 4 turns of control just because... with the DP effect lasting across the turns, it's just like -5, -5, -5, they can't play anything. It slows the opponent up so much with control that they can't do anything. And it just feels like they can't play the game, they lose the game. And definitely, like, Bandai specifically said, I think when they banned Tommy way back in the day, that, like, they don't want an unfun game environment for their game.
They don't want it so that only one person's playing, and that is kind of like the speed that this gave Numemon created that sort of environment.
So I'm gonna have a slightly more controversial opinion. I think Satsuki should have got hit.
Satsuki, no, like, don't kill Digipolice. What they do?
I mean,
Because
yeah,
jamming in an extra security attack is just too good
I
to
don't know.
have
I've seen. Here's the thing. I've
on
seen
something
like
that's
a lot
that
of
low to
new
the
Memon
ground.
decks that only run like 1 or 2 Satsuki anyway. It's just you want all of the slugs in the deck. Like
And
you just and
also,
it you kind of want them to die. Like you don't want to have jamming and stuff. You want them to die to get your on deletions off.
and another thing is, definitely the Monzemons should probably go because extra security attacks is bad in a deck that has jamming.
Yeah, I think like you do have a point there that this deck with the Monzemons having
It's
security attack +1, it was control and then it hit really hard really early.
it's got too many different tools in its toolbox
And I think
to
hitting
choose
Promo
from.
Ukomon and this card definitely restricts that a little bit, enough that I think people who really have fun with Numemon will still be able to play the deck, especially with the new Shin Monzemon coming out in uh, the new yellow starter deck coming out next month in America. But yeah.
And some people are probably going to say, but Jack, you play Machine German and Armors, and both of those decks are very toolboxy. Well, for one,
Those
Machine
decks are
German's
very-
toolbox requires setup to use.
Yeah,
A
Numemon,
lot.
like, basically you had this card, Numemon X Antibody, and you were basically set up for the game.
And Armors also requires some setup to be able to actually use the toolbox.
Yeah, like the old Magna, like you gotta have armors in the trash.
Yeah, you gotta have Armors in the trash. If you want to use Plasma Shot, gotta have Armors in the trash. If you want to use Fire Rocket, you gotta have an armor on board to be able to play it, or have a red source. If you want to use Awakening of the Golden Digizoid, well, really all you need is something with Magnamon in its name.
Or just something yellow.
And an
like
armor,
that's why that
but, you
card
know.
got hit.
But that card got hit, so that's fair and reasonable. And the fact that armors also are in all of the relevant removal colors.
Yeah.
But
But another thing about like
again, if you spread yourself too thin, you're going to have that problem where you want to play an option card, but you don't have the right Digimon on the field to be able to do it. So,
yeah. The thing about Numemon X is it made it extremely easy, as it mentioned here, to play Platinum Numemon, and Platinum Numemon's yellow and black coloring just makes it really easy to evolve into very control-y cards. Like, you have access to all the black level 7s, and you have access to all the yellow level 7s.
so Platinum
And even then,
Numemon
if you just
probably-
go into Monzemon, you have all the yellow options. You could play Venusmon, you could play Magna X, you could play, like, it's just, no, take that home, we don't like it.
you could all and the fact that what is it, Shin Monzemon? Sorry, Monzemon, Shin Monzemon are all yellow. That means that they can also use one of the best ace cards in the game, which is Valkyremon.
Yeah, and they have, so it just gets, like, again,
And they-
too easy to keep having cards around, and it enabled new Memon decks to just get way too wide with playing the cards off the deletion. So this was probably the right card to hit, and I know a lot of people said Monzemon X for the stall, but this just made the deck too easy to repeat. I think this with Numemon was the correct hit.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I
some
agree.
people, like CC just said, like, it might be a bit overkill, but
I don't think it's overkill.
like, with how well
But it-
this deck was
Totally.
performing, like, it was kind of like Bridesmaid Never the Bride, where it kept getting a bunch of second places, but the fact that it was just so saturated and
let's
only
not
lost to decks that
misinterpret
bounced.
what I
ugh.
said either. I think it's a good thing that the deck gets killed. I think the deck was doing way too much for what it's supposed to actually be. I don't think it should have been a toolbox deck. I think it should have been like a Numemon Monzemon deck and
Yeah.
actually use its own pieces rather than everyone else's pieces. So I think it's a good thing that they're trying to kill it.
Well, that's
Yeah,
not
I don't know if
Numemon's
it'll
fault,
kill it, I guess is
unfortunately.
what I was getting at there. Like, I think the deck will still be somewhat playable,
It is.
but
I just look at
I
this
don't think
deck
it'll
as-
be as a terror as it is now.
The issue CC's unfortunately getting at is it a greater design of the game as a whole. how generic a lot of the ace cards and a lot
Yeah.
of the level 7s are.
Yeah, that's a bit of a current problem with the game. That, like,
But-
it's great to have generic cards, but I think we need them on the bottom end and not the top end.
Yeah, so that's not exactly Nuemon's fault, but if we keep that up,
No,
it's going
it's
to
just
turn into a
symptomatic
whole
of
different discussion.
greater problems in the game, yeah. But that's, as you said, not a topic for this video, so let's move on to the hit for yellow vaccine. It was TK.
Yeah, this alongside Magnamon was Awakening was how they hit Magnamon. Unfortunately, every other yellow deck had to die for the sake of this.
No, I think yellow vaccine, like, there were other ways to run it.
Patamon?
Yeah, Patamon.
No, I
Patamon-
think...
There's no reason why Patamon is still around. That card is fucked up.
Patamon
No, Patamon only
Patamon
allows you to get to
whiff.
level 4, so it's not as bad.
And
And
Patamon
without
can
the
whiff.
TK to set it up, yeah, Patamon will whiff more without the TK. So I'll read this. Having multiples of this card in play makes it easy to continuously and significantly increase memory, guaranteeing the stability of yellow vaccine decks and others that use this card. Also, this card's role through the entire game becomes significant, since the effect which increases or decreases the security cards can be activated for a low memory cost. On top of this, having memory gained after recovery effects let the player do more and makes matches take excessively longer. For these reasons, TK was limited to one copy in a deck. That's a good point. Like, it just extended yellow vaccine plays and just made it so they did a whole bunch in one turn. I was
mean,
surprised
I agree
that this
with
was
all
the
of that.
hit and not Emissary of Hope, since it only costed one. But I think the reason this was the hit is because it makes both Patamon and Emissary less reliable. And as Cece was mentioning with Promo Louis earlier, like, you immediately get TK's on turn effect, so it's just basically he costs 2.
Yeah, I mean, again, I agree with all of the memory parts. It's just the issue that this does to a lot of other yellow decks. Will go into 3 Great Angels because Bandai just made an entire set, at least in the West. I know it came out.
No, I don't think so.
Well,
There's
it
stuff
you
for
better,
the-
it helped you better set up your security because all of the
Yes,
other
that's the
cards,
point.
like,
That's why it was hit. It made the other cards too easy to use. Like, it makes Yellow Vaccine more of a fun gamble and less of, I play a TK and now I win the game because everything's just all
they
set up.
specifically only let you add or get the memory off of cards that are Angel, Archangel, or 3 Great Angels, which is fine. The reason that I have a specific problem with it is because of cards like Gatomon, who are included in those Angel lines, but are not themselves counted in their traits as such, so you can't use them on it. Like, most of those cards is fine. I feel like Gatomon should at least be an exception to the rule.
Like, maybe we'll see a Gatomon that counts as Angel down the line, but we don't know.
I don't know. I just think it makes it hard for some of the decks to set up their security just because, like, the new Cupamon, you can only activate its effect when attacking to set up your security.
I think that makes the decks more fair. I think TK was just making it too easy. It's supposed to be a little bit of a gamble, but when TK sets up your security, it's not.
I mean, again, this is
Like, you just auto hit. Like, I've had games I've definitely won off of my Kantarosmon deck, which doesn't even play that much TK Patamon. But what it'd do is I'd start with the TK and the Patamon, and I'd just steamroll because it was just real easy after you set it up.
I mean, again, I do get it. I just think there are certain decks. It's the case of
I feel like 3 Great Angels, like, is the fairer version of Yellow Vaccine and not just
It
yellow
is,
good
and
stuff
and
with, like,
it's
using
the
the
issue we
armors.
came up with like Ugomon and others, where like fair decks had to suffer to hit the stuff that's actually terrorizing.
Yeah, but I think, to be like, a card had to be hit from Yellow Vaccine, and I don't know if it should have been TK, but I see why it's TK.
I think there's another thing that you haven't considered, and that's the fact that Bandai knows what's coming down the pipe and what they haven't announced yet. And
I mean, yeah.
they may see the writing on the wall, see it saying that, oh, this effect is a problem. Why? Because it's a problem with these archetypes. We weren't anticipating it to be a problem with these archetypes. This thing that's coming out in the set, 3 months from now, yeah, no, the writing's on the wall. We need to hit this card because when this comes out, this will be tier 0, and then everybody will hate the game.
I think, yeah,
I mean,
that's a good point. Like, TK doesn't say, like, when you recover. It says when a card is added to your security stack. So when you swap a card in and out, like, the upcoming Lobomon's effect to search your security for a hybrid, that counts, and you get the memory.
I mean, I'm probably giving Bondi a little too much credit here, but
Little
I
bit.
mean,
I think you are.
that is a consideration. I mean, listen, I understand designing a game is hard, and sometimes when you do your QA testing, you don't account for things that are at this point almost 4 years old because the game's been, let's see, yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
24.
4 years old.
It came out, yeah, it came out in the middle
Late
of COVID.
2020, yeah.
So, the game is almost 4 years old. People aren't accounting for this card that came out in BT7 or BT6 or hell, even BT5. You're not seeing it quite as much with the sets 1 through 3, but right around 5, 6,
Hammer
7,
Spark.
8, with the exception of Hammer Spark. But I mean, every once in a while, you're seeing a hidden horror from the old days of the game. All of a sudden, this card has now been power crept into the game, like Digimon Emperor,
Yeah.
because of the nature of the way the game is played.
I also think, like, here's the thing with TK that makes this hit a little bit more fair. The old TK, the Memory Tamer TK, exists. He costs 4, and that's a little bit more fair, and he doesn't really do anything afterwards. This TK, you play it, and then you just get advantage every single turn.
Also, there are other tamers that have TK in their name.
Yeah, there's TK and Kari, and there's the rarely used TK and Izzy.
There's also Blue
TK and Cody.
Being able to pick what you add into about what you get to add into security. I'm sure decks like 3 Great Angels are going to use the TK Kari dual tamer because they get
They should.
well, they get it when something is digivolved or played. That's all the angel stuff. It's more that like 3 Great Angels really needs its security set up, and TK let you do that.
Yeah, well, I think TK was just making it a bit too easy, and the fact, like, again, the poor have to suffer for the rich problems, like decks like yellow-based Magna Vaccine and stuff like that. Like, yeah, that's the reason TK got hit. It's unfortunate, like I think I've seen the example brought up several times that like BT7 Dor Greymon being hit definitely hit the way back when the Dor Goromon deck, even though Alphamon was the reason it got hit. Which is kind of funny, now it's the reverse, that the Alphamon deck is suffering because of that hit, and it's Dex Dor Goromon that would soar ahead if it was unrestricted, which is why it was not unrestricted. What?
Dex Dor Goro is still good without it.
True, but it'd be a menace if you had it, though.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably going to be one of the top decks in the format, but we'll get to that after we discuss the list. Anybody have anything else to say about TK? I know as the 3 Great Angels player, you were torn up about it. I play a yellow vaccine deck. I play Kentarosmon, and I only had 2 TK, so I'm like, okay, so I dropped a TK for a TK and Kari, the old one, and I'm just like, okay, I changed up my deck a little bit. It was an excuse to change up my deck. I don't think it's a huge
actually
loss.
Works better for the likes of a Kentorosmon that is just trashing and using barrier anyway.
It also does a bit of cycling, but yeah, true. Like, it's not as a big deal to me, but I get the like, yellow though, but yellow vaccine was kind of, from BT14 on, it was a very saturated deck, and as we saw when they hit, like, Savior Hackmon back in the day, like, they are willing to hit something based on this deck has had it far too good for far too long.
I think the long-term solution in that regard is there are going to be some cards here that we talked about in this video that probably should have gotten hit that will get hit later.
True. That definitely happened with... it'll be an adjustment they have to see. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we got an updated ban list following this one, sort of like how there was one after they tried to hit all of the purple bottom and stuff for Apocalypse, and then they hit Apocalypse. So we'll just have to see the tournament results after the 31st.
Well, what Bandai usually does with the exception of like that emergency hit for the
Yeah, that was a hit.
what Bandai usually does for the emergency hit, with the exception of that, is they only do so far 2 lists a year. One is after Nationals season
Yeah.
in the first like month or two of in the first like basically in February usually, and then they do another one over the summer.
I think
Yeah,
there should
fair.
be 3. I think they should do one in like February, one in like the middle of summer, and then one
Not in
like
February. That's when Worlds are. Maybe March.
or after. Okay, in March.
Yeah, I
Do
think they should
one.
see how Worlds goes, and then like I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
it should be a bit situational. Like people saw this
yeah.
ban list coming and were complaining for months because we needed it. And I think like Bandai should just like have enough social awareness to see when the community complains.
But there is still one card we got to talk about.
Yet there's 2 actually, I think. Actually no, you're right, there's 1.
It's
A
just
card lifted from the list, Gabumon.
a card no
So
one
the
was
starter deck
expecting
6
or asking for.
Yeah, if people were talking about other cards getting unhit, but this is the one that hit and got unhit, and I think I get why. So they say, in past game environments, when this card was widely used, by combining it with a Digimon that had an effect that let it attack consecutively and activating its inherited effect multiple times because it's not once per turn, and increased the consistency of decks that made use of the trash. However, as the card pool has increased in recent game environments, there are now more ways to suppress attacks. Because of this, we have determined that it has become more difficult to consistently activate this card's effect multiple times as before. Therefore, we have decided to change this card from restricted to 1 to unrestricted. And yeah, I think that's fair. It also like offers some like flexibility and opportunities. Like, hey, maybe you can get away with playing purple based Garurumon again
I don't
because
know
now
if
you
they,
have enough Gabus.
I don't
I
know.
don't
I don't think so.
Yeah, maybe not. But
I
I think
don't
it's fair to get this on hit. It was definitely, as we mentioned earlier, hit because of Apocalypse that just it made it too easy, like with Where Garurumon and stuff, to get stuff in the trash quickly enough for Apocalypse. But I think now it's safe to unhit this one. I don't think it was safe to unhit the like BT2 one, the on deletion one that draws one trashes one. Same reason Eismon didn't get unhit, but yeah.
It's probably the least good of the purple Gabumons.
No, the vanilla one is.
Oh, okay. I apologize. Out of the ones that have inherited effects, it's probably the least good. But that being said, I feel like Bandai might be tempting fate a little bit here.
I do agree.
Not because
What
this
decks are gonna
card
use
has
it?
an
Like purple
inherent.
decks aren't huge right now, especially
Hold
ones
on,
that
hold
use a
on.
bottom end like that.
It's not that the card is inherently degenerate. It's because it has the name Gabumon.
I think with the bigger Gabumon X hit, it's not as huge of a deal, especially since that means the unhit one is only blue, and it makes it harder to digivolve off of. We'll just have to see in the long run.
I just that's just my thoughts on it. I think they might
That's
be
fair.
tempting fate a little bit with it.
I think it's not gonna do much.
I'm hoping it doesn't do much. It might be a case of Bandai is tempting fate because they are taking something that was literally just put on the ban list off.
I don't know if it was just put on the ban list. I think that was like two or
I
three
think
lists
A
ago.
year ago.
Listen, a
Yeah.
year ago is really not that long ago in the space
yeah.
of how long we play this game.
No, yeah, you're right. Especially considering that was only 2 lists ago.
With the child
Considering how
speed.
long Savior Huckmon eventually came off the ban list, how
Yeah.
long was that guy on the ban list? He was on the
Like
ban list for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And then Jesmon didn't really do anything after that. Rest in peace, Jesmon.
Now, Jesmon can rust in pepperoni.
Cece was trying to say something though.
Yeah, I think this card got hit for no reason. I think
I mean, it did get hit for a reason. It got hit
A
for
resident
Pokemon.
purple bitch.
it got hit for absolutely no reason. I think the scare of Apocalypse and Melga caused 5 different cards to get hit. And
Like,
I
Melga
think
was
Yeah,
very
I think that
warranted.
was like 5 cards. Let me see what it was.
Melga was very
I
warranted
think
though, because the promo where Garurumon,
One,
you would swing
two,
multiple times and then you would evolve
three.
into Melga Ace that unsuspended
Okay,
itself
1, 2,
and eat
It
made
was,
hit
three.
it
those
was
cards
Gabumon. It
then.
was two different
Yeah, it was
versions of
5. It's
Gabumon.
5.
There's two different versions of Gabumon. Garurumon X,
Gabumon X.
Gabumon
Gabu
X.
X. So you had the blue-purple
Scatter mode
Gabu
and
and
the
Garuru
Pokemon
X,
itself.
and then you had two different purple Gabumons that got hit.
Yeah.
No,
And
this
then
not
there
fair
was
because
the scatter
Garurumon
mode.
could abuse the multi-attacking ones, like multiple attacks on one body in a single turn. That's why it
Yes,
got
I
hit.
think that. I think that's what it was, but now
I
that
think the
deck's not as
problem-
relevant, I think it's okay to unhit Gabu.
Like it got hit because Japan had the
Okay, so
Dragon
here's
Force
why they
Wolf
say it got
and,
hit. Digimon
like,
with effects that can attack in succession are able to send targeted cards to the trash at a faster rate than expected, and the output of effects that take advantage of the trash and stability of the deck is higher than expected due to the inherited effect that is multiple times a turn. In addition to the above, it's the level 3 that can evolve in a Gabumon X at 0 cost, so the timing of the inherited effect is highly flexible, which narrows the range of design for active effects and effects utilizing the trash. For this reason, it was restricted to 1. So yeah, it has to do that with the fact that they were hitting Gabu X too.
I think the whole problem is they got so scared of those two decks that use
And
purple
Anubis,
bottom
probably.
ends, and they hit way too many cards at one time, and it caused a lot of cards that didn't need to get hit because other decks were not using them as well.
Well,
I think they
that
should
goes back to the same
more strictly
conversation we
the
just had about TK.
I would like to point out that Anubismon was horrifically overtuned and should never have escaped QA.
Like, this got hit for a multitude of reasons. I think to
I
say
think, yeah, because that was like the purple death march of a couple of
like
sets.
I think to say that this got hit, that this was originally restricted for no reason
is a bit extreme to say.
It's extreme to say, and it really just, it's a statement of not paying attention to any deck outside of, say, a pet project.
Yeah, like
Yeah, but notice how they hit 5 different cards because of these two decks. Even more, I think, actually. I think
No.
it's more like
so. I'd like to point
6.
out
I think they
CC.
panicked.
No, they didn't. It was
on that March ban list, they hit Bukamon. Bukamon deserved to get hit. I love Bukamon. Armors
Too easy for jamming.
Were too easy. It was good for armors. It was good for pretty much everything.
It was good for every blue deck. Every blue deck was playing 4 Bukas.
Apocalypse
using the hell out of it.
They had Apocalypse was so much of a problem, they preemptively banned it to 1.
And they had to release a statement.
Okay?
Is that bad?
That's how much of a problem it was. Gabu X, Garuru X. Those cards were justifiably banned. Gabu from the starter deck and BT2. Those needed to be banned needed to be hit with the hammer because of their name. Mostly, they had relevant inheritables, but really
they were also used in Apocalypse.
Their name. Also used in Apocalypse. Icemon Scatter Mode. This card probably should have been hit with the ban hammer a long time ago.
It definitely reduced a lot of variability in purple bottom ends.
And that's part of why the was also hit.
Yeah. The Eismon and the BT2 Gabu was just so common as a purple bottom end. So I'm glad for the versatility that having them hit got us.
Yeah, because if you look at the Japanese
I think one of the problems is, though, I think they hit all these bottom ends without giving decks bottom ends to work with. So
yeah, I think they need to print more generic purple bottom ends.
You're gonna give the example of a deck that
I'm gonna give
dead.
Listen, but here's the point, though. Billstar, and it's a really good example here. They hit its entire bottom end.
That wasn't
because,
it just purple bottom end.
Right, but that's
fuck the other two
though.
Musketeers until EX7.
they didn't give Billstar a bottom end to replace the one they just wiped out. So that deck then struggled to function.
But that's not.
And now
I
that they
just
made
did
the bottom
Imbon Rush
end,
because it's funny.
right? And of course, there's other bottom ends to use. But the whole point is, if you hit all the generic ones, there are a bunch of decks that now just lack a bottom end
I
because
You're
think
also
we're
it's hard.
starting to
targeting a
get some more
deck
at
that
least.
was created before the game. Like the deck, you're talking about a deck that was created when the game might as well have been a different game.
Yeah, Beelstarmon kind
And
of.
people still play it.
Yeah, because
Beelstarmon, let's see, when did Beelstarmon come out?
like you talk
BT6.
about having a bottom end that can be like a deck like Musketeers happened at a time when the game was was a representation more of the original concept of Digimon when it comes to the V pets of evolution being free, as opposed to now where we have things that reward you for playing an
Yeah, very
archetype
tribal. Yeah.
and more tribal based decks. Like yes, Musketeers had cards in that they had the actual Musketeers. They had their options and they had
They had
Deputy.
Deputy. Yeah.
But like again, this was back when cards just didn't have an inherent line other than like, oh, this is designed
These
with
cards
this
are
in
meant to work
mind,
together.
but it's not necessary to be used with this card.
Yeah, 5, 6, 7, and EX1 were sort of the beginning of, and we're playing an archetype now, and you really want to play an archetype deck, not just a good stuff deck.
Yeah, and I would still say though that that didn't really start. We honestly, I'd say that more
BT9!
started in EX1.
BT9 and BT11 fighting a back alley for the worst set for different reasons.
Don't
Because
even get me started on
we're
that.
still doing archetype was, I would say, really was where the archetype stuff started, just because of the hybrids.
Fair.
Well, no, I would argue 5 because
I think 5 was where it became a big deal with the
with
Agumon
Agumon.
Greymon became really like
I mean, yeah, but that was
heavy with the
still
tribal
kind
stuff.
of tribal. It was still kind of. It was also still red good stuff because you were still running
Yeah, fair.
like your blockers. You were still running other things. You weren't only strictly running Greymon cards. Um, I'd say if anything, the thing that was most archetypal at that time was like Diaboromon.
Well, Diaboromon kind of has to be.
It was
It
really
always has been.
See, in when I finally got around to playing War Greymon in BT 5-6, it was basically I'm sorry, but blocking is something other people do.
Yeah.
yeah, but like you look at everything else that came out of EX BT6. Like yes, we had Agumon, but it just used a bunch of generically good Agumon that had come out throughout the game because the only cards it got was the new Tai, the new Agumon, and Bond of Bravery. You look at Jessamon, and yeah, it got one of each level, but then it was still ending up being a red good stuff because the other, like, its secondary level 6 was Gallantmon, for example. And, like,
I mean, it was a Royal Knight, so it worked with its option, too.
yeah, and you still use starter deck Greymon, and you had
Yeah.
and
I miss those days,
and you
but I
pulled
I
lots
still
of
like the game.
rookies. Like it wasn't until BT7 and really BT8 that the game started becoming what it is now, where things had intended lines and dedicated lines. So to say that like hitting
Yeah, where cards needed specific
so to
names.
say that hitting a card that got released in a starter deck in June of 2021 killed a bunch of decks because of its name, because it was because of its name, because it wasn't just Gabumon. It was Purple used the entire Garurumon engine because the Garurumon engine was so fine tuned that there was just nothing, like it was just like
I
why
think
else would I
how I
use anything else?
described that was
So
Bandai
overtuned for
really
Purple.
wanted Purple Garurumon to be a thing, and they're like, oh, let's combine the purple and blue lines so you could use more cards together, and they did not realize the terror that they created.
Just because they were generic, and that's why it got hit. It got hit
Yeah.
because there are other purple engines, but this one was so optimized that there was no other reason.
Yeah, like I was seeing Beelzemon decks that were running Garurumon bottom end just because it was faster.
Like the whole point of hitting it was to encourage more creativity and better deck design and for more variety.
Yeah, so I think
No
with the
longer live in
Gabu
a
X
space
and the
where
Garurumon X still hit, it's a little safer to unhit this one, but I don't think they should unhit the other one too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, the other one should stay gone.
I mean, the old one is intended to die, which is not what you want your
No, a lot of decks, like
no,
you were
the
mentioning
X's.
Beelstar in particular, some decks are okay with their bottom end dying and then getting a bunch of draw,
So
Yeah.
especially when
Yeah.
scattered mode was a thing.
That's why.
But
That's why it's good.
the
and there's still cards that kind of want to die at level 4, like Dark Lizardmon that's intended to be used with Minerva or Merva,
Dobermon.
sorry.
Dobermon.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, but-
Dobermon's meant to live. Or no, oh,
No.
EX2 Dobermon.
EX2
Yeah, that's meant to
Dobermon,
die.
the good one.
Yeah, the good one.
The good
I
one.
don't
the
know.
One that,
I like the other ones.
the one that
I like
nobody
my Dog
talks about.
deck.
The one that everybody just kind of looks at with disgust when
I'm a die. Let me mill 3. Get back my tamer.
I'm sorry, but this thing is technically a little bit better, in my opinion, than Eismon. Fight me.
Well, at least for decks that want to discard.
Well, the thing is that it lets you
From,
get
deck
something
and
back
hand.
from the trash. It lets you get something back from the trash, and if you're playing a mill-heavy deck,
Yeah, like
That's
for mill
not
decks,
a bad
it's
thing.
inherently better than Eismon was. But for non-mill decks, you could see the point for Eismon.
but like
But we're a bit
Eismon-
off topic with the Gabumon getting unhit, but we did get into it a bit of how about things that weren't on this ban list and things you think would never be hit or unhit, stuff like that.
I mean, it's the usual, right? Ice Wall and HPD should just be gone.
Yep.
I think yeah.
itself
HPT is just
the whole
inherently
reason green
bad.
it's the whole reason that green is constantly being kneecapped with its effects.
Yeah,
Like, we're
green
only
gets to
finally
level 5
seeing-
and then they suffer.
Like, we're only now seeing somewhat decent green with Tyrant, and even then, like,
and Dinomon.
yeah, but
Jack is
so,
very
like,
excited about Dinomon.
I'm very excited about Dinomon.
Like, green is just so held back in terms of design because they have to think of everything with HPD in mind, so it should just be gone.
Yeah.
I agree. It's a problem.
Yeah, HPD is, I think, the only card that's currently in the game that I think should be banned outright.
Ice Wall just for
I mean,
all
Ice Wall
the
doesn't really get played anymore, I guess.
Yeah, Ice Wall
Yeah.
at 1 I think is okay for a quick, like, defensive play. Like, I think at 1 is, like, the perfect amount, because it's just kind of meant to be a defensive trump. And it's not
My-
as needed with aces, but...
my attitude is if you cannot safely unrestrict it, you should probably consider just getting rid of it altogether.
I
For
don't know
the-
about that.
What's the point of restricting cards then?
Yeah.
Well, no,
Well,
I'm saying,
there's
I'm
a lot
okay.
of cards
Well, no, what
that
I'm saying
are
is
fine
if
at
the
one
card is
copy.
so cracked that you can never safely unrestrict it,
I think the only
Then it
card
should
that
just go.
fits that is HPD.
then it should just go bye-bye. Period.
I mean,
You could
cross
never
four.
really safely, but you
Cross
could
four-
never.
Cross 4 should just be hit. Should just be gone.
Cross 4, especially since they're
I
giving
don't
us a new
think it
Cross
should,
4 in
though. At one
BT19, I
copy.
think it should just go away forever.
I think Cross 4 should just
At
be
one
gone
copy,
because it
it's
takes
not
away a
that
deck space.
bad.
No,
At
but
one
it's still
copy,
a
it's
deck
not
space.
that bad, but it's not as necessary anymore with new ones being printed.
Another
I
thing.
think Jet Selfie is another one that
Jet
It can never
Sylphie
come
should
back.
never ever come off the ban list
so
with
it
the new
should just
yellow
be
hybrids
gone
existing.
instead of being at 1.
You know what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Jet Sylphie maybe should be banned.
I would argue Anubismon probably at 1 is
You're
still
just
too
salty
much.
because I had good games with Anubis.
Yeah, but I'm just.
Oh, I think
I listen.
think Anubis will end up restricting like
Like banned.
Listen. I like the
cards.
design of
yeah.
Anubismon. I like the design of Anubismon, but it is so unbalanced. I like the card, but it is so unbalanced that
It does too
yeah.
much. You're
Even
right.
at one, it probably needs to go.
It needed a level restriction. If they just said play level 5 or lower, it would be fine. But you can spit out level 6s with it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that they did not realize how bad it'd be with something like Mervamon, that you could basically play a level 6 and fill up the board for 2.
And now they can't make good purple ace cards because you could just play them for free.
I think there's actually a couple others. I think Calling from Darkness is one that could go to 0.
Yeah.
I
Because
think calling is
it can never come off the list. If it's deletion, if it's if its effect was delete one of your Digimon, like, or if it said buy
Then.
delete one of your Digimon, then return it, but it's the fact that you can
It
play
does.
it.
That is what it says.
No, it doesn't. You can play it with nothing on board.
That's what I'm
and
saying. It says delete one of your Digimon then. I think
It
like what it
doesn't
has to
say-
be
yeah, but,
for the
one
cost
is
of
not-
deleting one of your Digimon, it should say.
That's what I mean, yeah. And I think it's such a sacky card by, like, for one memory, you can just get back 2 pieces you need. I think it's just better off it.
I
Yeah,
think they
you're
could
right.
just
I wasn't thinking of
errata
that
it.
card.
No, I
I
don't
think
think
they
they're
could
all-
just
they're not gonna
errata
errata it. They won't. They only errata stuff when they printed the wrong effect usually.
Correct.
Yeah,
So, but I
like,
think the
I'm
card
saying
is better off gone.
they could even just print a new one with the same effect that says by deleting one of your Digimon and then just ban out the old one.
I'd be okay
I
with
think
that.
that fixes it.
Yeah, and then there is one other that I think should be gone for the same reason, by the same logic that Jack gave, and that is reinforcing memory boost.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's
No
no
idea.
I mean,
It's
no
a
one
little bit.
plays it
It's too
anymore.
much. I
think
think we
it's-
should be
anymore?
thankful that it's the cost it is, and
I
something
have
like
it in my master
Sakuyamon just
level.
can't put it in security. Actually,
There's
no,
no
it
reason
is.
for it anymore. They could just ban it and it would be fine.
No, there is plenty of reason, because if that is a card that if it came off, it would be running rampant.
No,
Yeah.
I know, but I'm saying they could just ban it and no one would miss it.
Yeah.
Because no
Yeah.
one runs it anymore. So I think it's fine to just ban it.
I also actually one more. I think Sunrise Buster also meets that criteria
Yeah, Sunrise
Sunrise
Buster can never
Buster.
come back, and
and
I'm
should
gonna
just be
go
gone.
on a rant in a second.
Yeah, like
It's
Sunrise
basically-
Buster basically has the effect of a level 7 ace, literally.
A Sunrise Buster is literally the cost of a level 6 ace with the effect of a level
Level
9
7 ace. It's literally the effect of Shine Greymon Burst Mode ace.
Oh yeah, I
except
forgot about that.
except red. Except you could play red, so arguably it's better than Shine Greymon
better.
Burst Mode ace.
Because it costs less too.
Yeah.
In terms of cards that can safely be I don't know if Greymon X can safely come off the list.
Yeah, Greymon X is definitely one that was a consideration for a
I
lot of people
don't-
who would like to see it unhit.
In terms of the game right now, Greymon X could come off because it was hit at a time when
I'm just worried it'd get put right back on as soon as we got any
Yeah.
kind of
The
Greymon
problem
support.
is
like Greymon X could come back right now because even with War Greymon, even with that card, would still not actually compete because its protection is shittier than a lot of the other protection, and it would only maybe catch up in terms of speed.
so
But you're not really gonna have a Metal Greymon card that's gonna be more than 2 colors. If you do, that's crazy.
I mean, it's
I think
possible.
the problem with Greymon X right now is they're revealing a bunch of crossheart stuff. So Black War Greymon would come back, and I think that will diminish the value of the cards they're literally revealing right now. So I don't think they're going to take Greymon X off the list.
That's
until
an excellent
after
point.
Anything to
Crossheart
do
stuff
with it
is gone.
because they made new Black War Greymon cards literally in the second Crossheart set.
Yeah, and they hit one of the cards, didn't they?
I don't
This
think
one.
one has
No,
anything to do with the other.
it really doesn't. I think
But I think it's a good point that Black War Greymon is one of the very anti-tamer decks, and I think it'll see a bit of an anti-meta resurgence
which
with
is honestly needed.
hybrids and
No.
cross-art coming back.
Needed because of BT18, but if you look at Japan, Black War Greymon isn't doing anything in BT18 meta.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
because
also that
there's no
Japan
Greymon
tends to like to play
X-Men.
new toys. That's a very old toy.
Yeah, but they also
That too.
do bring back anti-meta, and they've been doing the new toy stuff less. You more see it with
Well, no, they don't do it in like
Choices.
Grand Asia Opens. That's why it was all Numemon and Yellow Vaccine and such.
I don't know.
Speaking
I
of which, of things we thought that should have been hit,
Mirage,
Heaven's Judgment.
Mirage Galgamon has had it too good for too long.
Yeah, that needs to be
Oh,
needed
yeah.
now.
Yeah, BT11 Mirage, I think, is what should be hit.
BT11 Mirage should be hit. Like,
alternatively, you could hit BT4 Thomas.
No.
because other
No,
decks
just
use
hit
the Mirage Gal.
You could, well, if you hit the Mirage, you
hit
just kill the
Mirage.
deck.
That's fine.
Good.
That's fine.
It's been around since BT11.
And there's other Mirage Galgamons you can use to replace it.
Exactly.
But the one, but the old Thomas is the one that lets Mirage unsuspend and go again.
No,
That's
here's the thing that I'm putting
And it's
into
not
it.
once per turn.
BT11 Mirage is just
and
a
it's
very
not a
strong
once per
card. Like
turn.
again, you saw that Galaxy deck that placed second in the Grand Asia. Or no, did it win or did it get second place? Either way,
We got second.
yeah,
Is
that it was
that Pano?
Galaxy bottom end, but the main top end was just BT11 Mirage Galgamon with barely any other Galgamon
Now-
support.
Now, it was Grand Asia. Is that the Pan-Oceania region?
No, it was Japan this
Okay.
time.
Okay.
It was
'cause-
the end of Japan's first tournament cycle.
Okay, because I was gonna say something we need to consider if we're talking about the meta results. Pan-Oceania is a lawless land. Nothing makes sense down there.
Yeah. I mean, like, different metas are different, like, different culturally. Like, Shine Greymon, I've noticed, like, seems to, like, place more often in Latin America, for example.
Yeah.
And purple places a lot here because
Purple places a lot
less
here.
likes control.
Yeah, but yeah, I was just gonna say like
Yeah, purple blue tends to be very popular in North America.
The Pan-Oceania region is absolutely lawless when it
Now,
comes
don't
to...
offend, like, the maybe one person who's gonna see this video from that region, sweetie.
I'm sure the Aussies won't care. They'll be like, yeah, mate, the Aussies won't care. They'll be like, nah, it's true.
Fair. I don't want to offend anybody, though. You know me.
Yeah, but no, the meta for Pano is very... It's interesting because it's always interesting to see what they choose to play. I don't know if it's a distribution issue or, you know.
I don't know. I think UK and Latin America have the worst distribution right now
Like-
because it seems like for distribution they only really care about Japan and North America.
Like Latin America, I think Latin America, Eastern Europe, and Pan-Oceania always seem to have weird distribution issues. Because remember, there was a few years back when I think Blue Flare took the top seat at one of the events, one of the big regional events, and one of the reasons why was because there was a distribution issue, and I think it was right after EX4. What was the set that came after EX4?
BT13.
Yeah.
I think it was
no, I
right
think
I think-
BT13 was the one before.
I think it was the set right. It was the set right after It was right after EX4 came out.
That's BT13, yes.
Oh yeah,
So-
okay.
The rest of the world had it. Everybody else was looking one way, and this guy's like, "I'm gonna take Blue Flare," and he took Blue Flare, and like people. It was just one of those really weird metas where...
Yeah, Blue Flare, like Black or Greymon, is a deck that's a very good anti-meta pick in a lot of formats, and it's definitely going to come back when we get the Blue Flare support in 2.5 in February.
I'm very excited for the Dark Knightmon support in that set.
Yeah, we're all excited for
You
sets that
wonder
are coming
if
out.
the Dark Knightmon stuff might actually be in 2.0 if Nene and such is intended to be with Millenniummon.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we might see it in 2.0.
I think Nene might be in 2.0.
We'll see. But any other things you guys got on things that should
Heaven's
never come
Judgment.
off? Heaven's Judgment should have been hit. I agree with
Yeah.
that. With
Yeah, I
three-color
agree.
cards and
Should
so
have been
many of
hit.
them being yellow or green, it just makes the card too strong.
And
Yeah,
like, here's the thing. It should be hit for the same reason as Sunrise Buster. They're literally the same cost. They
No, they're not.
basically
No, they're
No,
not.
they're not. Heaven's Judgment's 8.
It
It's-
costs.
I thought it was
reduces to 7.
No.
No, it reduces to 7, I think.
Sunrise
I thought
Buster is
there-
still
no.
a 5.
Yeah.
Oh wait, Sunrise Buster is 5?
Good
I thought it
lord.
was 7.
No. That's why it was broken. It played a tamer and then did all that shit.
Okay.
We've established
Either
CC
way-
doesn't know how to read, but yes, it's 5.
I mean, you would
Either
be
way.
forgiven for not having looked at the card for... Oh, wait, no. Heaven's Judgment is 7. It's just 7. I
Yeah,
thought
it's
it was
7
8.
or
but
8.
it
It's
is
like
7.
pretty
It's
good.
just 7. It's
It's
just
7.
7.
Yeah.
You can play it if you have a green Digimon or Tamer without meeting the yellow requirement.
Now, it was fair
When it
when
was printed.
What was fair when it was printed, because the only way you would get more than 3 or 4 colors on a single Digimon,
Is if you were playing Armors or Bunnies, were literally the only decks that play
and
like
if
that many
you
colors.
if you were using what's it called, Chimeramon.
Chimeramon, yeah.
Chimeramon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you're
the
right.
old, because Chimeramon would give you white plus all the colors that are in the stack.
For the
That
one
was
turn,
fair.
yeah.
For the one.
Yeah.
No, I thought I always had the
Oh no,
colors.
you're right. You're right. The DP minus is only
The
turn, I
DP
think.
minus effect was, so you
Listen,
would
I
think,
never really used Chimera in a deck.
I never really liked Chimera. I used it a handful of times, but I never really liked the
I
card.
think with EX4 it had largely fallen off.
But I mean, it
I
was
think
fair
Heaven's
at the
Judgment-
time. It's not fair now. It needs to go.
Heaven's Judgment was meant to be played in the Bunnies deck because they play yellow, green, and purple, and that's
Correct.
fine, but they're on separate Digimon as well. The second they made a 3-color card, that card should have been hit instantly.
I
There's
agree.
no reason for that.
Gone.
Being used, and I think the reason it didn't get hit is because look at the list. It's not being used. It's not being used in red
Yeah.
or blue base hot like Susano decks because there's no room.
Yeah, but the problem is
And
they need to look ahead to the future a little bit.
you say that, but like it's
it-
just not being used because deck space is so tight. There's no space in Imperial. There's no space.
It's going to get
I think a
once
hit to 1
Crossfire
wouldn't
comes
affect
out.
it so much because people usually run it at like 1.
Because
Yeah.
there's no space for it.
Yeah.
But with Uko going bye-bye and the game slowing
Yeah,
down
there
a
will
little
be
bit,
a bit more space.
I
Jack
think
makes a good point.
with Uko going bye-bye, they honestly, I think they should have just preemptively banned it, because they're taking away one of the biggest sources of aggression in the meta by knocking Uko all the way to 1. Now you have some room for options, so I think that it would have been safe to hit Heaven's Judgment. Personal opinion. You can at me later. I don't care.
I mean, we'll see. It could very well be hit in the next list.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, there's lists that'll follow this list. But speaking of that, I think it's a good
Um,
way to transition. Now that these cards have been hit and certain cards haven't been hit, where do you think the meta is going to go now? I think I've said it in our private chats, but I think the top decks are going to be Imperial, Dextor, Gora, and Mirage.
I think Magnamon will still hang around. I don't know if it's
Blue base, I think, might hang around.
I think blue base Ancient Garurumon is still
Yeah, blue base
Thing,
Ancient Garurumon going to
and
hang
it's
around.
still good. 7 Great Demon Lords is still good.
It'll be better with the Shoto coming out.
Imperial is Imperial.
I think
is
Imperial's going to
unaffected.
be
It's just
top dog.
Imperial is.
It'll be. I think it's gonna be like Imperial, Mirage, Ancient Garuru.
You can never.
I think
rule
you're
out
underestimating purple base Dextor Goramon because it did top several events even before
I
the
think
grand
it's-
list.
I think it's gonna be good. I just think the 3 undisputed tops are the 3
Fair
blue.
enough.
Otherwise,
Blue is just an inherently very good color just because it's a resource-based color that you just get a ton of memory and a ton of draw.
I think Hybrids is
I think
still
Red
a good
Hybrids
deck.
will be good.
Red Hybrids.
Yeah,
is
Red
still good.
Hybrids is like the only good red deck right now, unfortunately.
Red Hybrids, in my opinion, kind of falls into the same bucket as Beelzemon. You can never rule it out.
Yeah, if you high roll with a deck like that, you can win.
Yeah, it's one of those decks you can just never count it out.
I think you could say that about Yellow Vaccine now with the TK hit. If you high roll, then you still have a good chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that requires. I think that requires a lot of moving pieces.
Luck and a little more setup. I think it like Yellow Hybrid or Yellow Vaccine rather isn't completely out of it, but it's definitely harder.
Well, and we're forgetting the obvious one. The other obvious one is Fenrir Lugamon.
Yeah, I think that'll see a bit more.
Kazuchi is gonna be has been and will continue to be a top contender.
And I think Takumi Kazuchi with less control from Numemon is going to be a bigger presence in the meta than it was in the Japanese meta for this time.
Yeah, I mean it's still a good deck in the Japanese meta even now.
I mean, we might even see a bit of a resurgence from just Fenrir Lugamon in general,
Yeah,
because
but
Yellow Vaccine and Numemon were definitely decks that were keeping it down.
yeah, it's like that. I think we'll see both variants of Fenrir be utilized, but Takumi Kazuchi is just super fast.
Yeah, Taka Mikazuchi is just a notoriously fast deck.
Another one. It's also another one that I would definitely file in the "you can never rule it out" category. Is
Machine Dramon.
Machine Dramon. You
I
can
knew you were
never
gonna say Machine Dramon.
Machine Dramon,
Numemon,
Beelzemon.
with Numemon gone, Shinramon is probably a better rogue than it's
I
been a bit.
yeah, I think like with like Numemon definitely nerfed and Ukomon hit, we're gonna see some slower decks make a resurgence, and I think Machine Dramon might be one of them.
Machine Dramon can come out fast, but the problem is that Numemon is just faster.
Well, it won't be now.
Um,
I don't think Diaboromon's going to be anything just because there's still so much that
I'd love for it to though.
is
Diaboromon is
better.
such a fun deck.
Shine is gonna definitely be a contender.
Yeah, because it's not dependent on a yellow vaccine bottom end. In fact, red base might even be better.
You can still mix like because the Shine decks that are doing well right now are still using some of the new like a little bit of all the new things still. They're just not maxing out on it.
Yeah. So I think that's like the yellow deck that'll be least affected by the TK hit.
But I think we're gonna be just I think in terms of like what's the top deck, I think it's gonna largely be the same stuff that's been, with the exception of like we won't be seeing yellow based Magnum on X. We won't really, and we'll be seeing less Numemon.
Yeah, which
You
I
might
think
see blue
because
Magnum
but
get
those
less.
are like gatekeepers and they overly centralize the meta, so I think we'll be seeing more variety, which is nice.
I mean, we'll see. It could very well be that those things were gatekeeping something that just shuts down everything else.
Yeah, I'm worried that like it's gonna be rise of fast blue decks again.
I
I
think
think that's what
I
it's.
think there's
I think Imperial will be the top banana.
I just think it's. I think
I think
there's
it's gonna be
a
Ancient
chance that
Garurumon.
I think there's a chance that Tyrant also starts to make a bit of a comeback because it
That'd be
kind of
interesting.
just couldn't handle with Magnamon at all.
You're right.
I
Tyrant
don't think
did
it'll
really
be
bad
like
against
top
this.
dog.
But it'll be nice to
It
see an
definitely won't
anti-meta
be like top
contender.
dog because all those blue decks, but I think it'll just actually be able to like be a little like respected now. And then of course I think Demon Lord still has a chance
I
of
mean,
just
yeah, Demon Lords is not, they didn't do anything to hit Demon Lords, and Demon Lords, if anything, was being gate kept. I mean, Demon Lords was topping, and it was still probably being gate kept.
Yeah.
it was it
Um,
100% because its
Magna
interaction
X
couldn't
can
really
block your
handle
big
Magnamon.
Agudo swing.
But like,
Yeah,
It
that's
isn't
it.
affected by
was still
Agudo.
topping, so I don't think like that's gonna change anything.
Yeah, I think Demon Lords might take a little bit bigger slice of the pie, especially with EX7 about to come out and people utilizing Shoto to make the bodies on board for a turn less dead.
And I think also Lilith X comes out then, and I think that's
Correct.
just gonna be a
And that was
surgeon
the
of
thing in
people.
Japan anyway. So,
Yeah, we might see a little bit more of Lilith X when it comes out than we did in
and
Japan.
obviously we'll be seeing like the Liberator stuff, and
Yeah, I'm excited for
Yeah.
Puppet Rush, and I think Zafagamon might actually be a bigger deal in the States now.
Oh yeah, I think with less like control decks, I think those decks are allowed to actually have a place now.
Yeah, it makes Vortex a much better keyword.
I mean, the at the end of the day, something people need to remember is that Magnamon X dies to being swung at. So if you can swing over it,
yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah, I
Because
think maybe
Red
like
can
decks
swing
like
over it.
yeah, I think like maybe we'll see a few more red decks like Wargreymon coming back because it can get the big old numbers and
you know,
like raid into
But I
Magnamon.
definitely
I mean,
think
yeah, it armor
it's
purges
going to
off,
roll.
but you can still deal with the body that's underneath it. So, and something to remember is that it's still going to cost them 5 to digivolve up into Magnamon from
Yeah,
Magnamon
like
X.
it'll definitely be a lot slower. They'll pass you more memory, so it's more of a gamble than it was, which
I
makes
think
it
what it
unfair.
is we might see Red Hybrid be a bigger contender.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think Red Hybrid has a better chance now,
Just
especially
because
since
it gets the big numbers so easily, especially with the new stuff. It got the new tamer that has piercing.
and the big defensive deck Numaimon is hit, so an offensive deck like Ancient Greymon is going to do a lot better just based on the environment, unless something new defensive rises to take its place, which might be like that Mother D Reaper with Shoto kind of stuff, but again, we'll have to see.
Also, Yellow Vaccine might just shift more towards Rapid Mon X because,
I think it will.
I'm okay with.
Yeah.
I'm
It's a
okay
little
with it.
more balanced.
They can have it. I don't care. Just
They
stop
can have
stealing.
it.
Stop stealing my toys. I don't care about Rapid Mon X. I care about Magnamon X. I want Yellow Vaccine players to stop stealing my toys and let me have my fun.
But yeah, market wise, I think like some cards might go up just because their pieces might be more effective, and some cards are gonna go down. But I think it'll be nice, like cards like Ukomon and cards like TK, to get the alternate arts of them, because you'll only need one of them. And I think that's a nice thing for casual players that's kind of overlooked sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm glad I bought my Flame Dramons when I did, because I get the feeling their stock is going to go up because people are gonna
Really, I think their stock is going to go down. But then again, people will be more likely to play blue base. You're right.
People who want to play the Vmon armors instead of Yellow Vaccine, they're going to be like, no, I need this card, and it's already hard to get. So buying it now, I'm glad I bought it when I did, because it's probably gonna be unchanged, if not worse.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Insectoid promos also come out, because as we mentioned, like the decks that were top dog because of these cards that were restricted, I think were definitely bad matchups for Tyrant.
Another thing that there might also be some room. There might be some room in the meta for Melga to possibly weasel its way in again.
I think so.
I'm not saying that it's gonna be like the top
Yeah, because
tier
Melga,
menace,
you're right. Melga's a decently fast deck, and with other decks slowed down, a fast deck like Melga could come back.
I'm saying
we have our friend Alan, who's not here today, who is a diehard Melga player. He went to an Evo Cup at a local somewhere farther away from us. He's away right now. And he came in second with Melga and lost to Yellow Vaccine. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's as good a place as any to call it for this discussion.
Yeah, so we definitely think the meta is going to be changed up, and I think this ban list is what we needed. It's not going to solve every problem in the game, but we'll see what problems it does solve.
At least Bandai actually banned something, because I have played TCGs where the publisher is very hands off with the ban list, and they just refuse to ban anything.
Yeah, at the very least, it came when I think we needed it. I was worried they're going to wait till Unified release.
I think this was like a surprisingly large ban list. On top of that, there was like 6 or 7 cards on this list.
Yeah, they didn't go Scorched Earth, but there are like 6 cards on this list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. And 1 Gabu. So yeah, that's our review of the ban list and where we think the meta and stuff is gonna go. Let us know if you have any additional opinions, and if you have any opinions on our spicy takes, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.